I'm assuming you all have Reiki, and even if you don't, let's just place our hands on ourselves for a few moments. And know that we are connected in Reiki. We are creating an energy field together. An energy field for exploration of Reiki and our practice. And as you self-treat, I'd like to invite you to think back to the time when you first gave a Reiki treatment to someone else. Perhaps soon after your first class, Reiki class. Try and recall it in as much detail as you can. Where did it take place? Your home or their home or somewhere like that? Did the person lie down or was it a sitting treatment? Were they comfortable? Who was it that you were treating? Was it a member of the family, a friend, or someone you didn't know? And how did you feel? Think about the physical sensations, what you felt in your hands and in your body. And also what you felt in your emotions and your mind. And how did that person respond? What was the outcome of the Reiki? And now I'd like you to think about someone you gave a Reiki to more recently, now that you've been practicing for a while. And again, try and recall it in as much detail as you can. Think about where the treatment took place. What kind of environment was it? Was it the same sort of thing, or was it somewhere more formal? Did you use a special treatment couch, or was it more like the first treatment you gave? Who was the person you were treating? Was it someone you knew or someone you didn't? Again, thinking about the physical sensations, what you felt in your hands, in your body. And also thinking about your mental state, your emotions, what you felt in that sense. And think about how they responded and the outcome of that session. Thank you. So if you'd like to open your eyes and have a nice deep breath, if you like. So we still have a few more people joining us, which is lovely. If you've just joined during that little preparation, please do. I'd love to know where you are in the world, so do put that in the chat if you'd like to. So today, I'm going to introduce to you 3 potential phases for Reiki treatment practice, moving from informal to professional Reiki treatment practice. So I'd just like to acknowledge the source of this work, which is that I attended 3 conferences, 2 in the USA and 1 in the UK, which I actually helped to organize. And these conferences, which were brought together by Phyllis Furumoto and Paul Mitchell, senior Reiki masters in America, specifically to discuss public practice of Reiki. In other words, when we give Reiki treatments to members of the public. And one of the things that we did in these conferences was to come up with a description of characteristics of 3 kinds of ways of giving Reiki. So they were called levels at the time, 3 levels of Reiki treatment. Now, personally, I've changed the word levels to phases, because I think levels implies that you go from one to another, like steps, and that you kind of leave behind where you were before. Phases for me is a different has a different sense, which is that it's more developmental. You don't leave behind where you were before. You bring that with you, in a sense. So like, for example, when I was young, I learned the violin. And to begin with, I just had to learn how to hold it and how to move the bow and how to put my fingers on the fingerboard. And that was the very basics that I had to learn. That was the first phase. And the noise was terrible. Then gradually I got better at doing that. So I was able to start making little tunes. But I still, I was still doing the fingers, and I was still moving the bow, and I was still, and then gradually I got really good at doing little tunes, and I had to do scales as well. I had to go, no, 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 no. And then I carried on and did more complicated tunes, but I still had to do the scales, and I still had to put the fingers on the fingerboard and move the bow. So as I went through developing my practice of playing the violin, that I went through for these various phases, I always still had to do the fingering and the bowing and playing the scales and the exercises, and then just developed more and more skills on top of that. So that's how I see these phases, if you like, of potential Reiki practice. And I would like to also emphasize and acknowledge that these thoughts, which I'm going to share with you, came not just from one person or even a couple of people. It actually was a really wonderful collective development. And, we had some deep discussions, and, I'll tell you a little bit about that probably as we go through. But it's very much, these were felt to be somehow true. If you know what I mean. There was a kind of a common agreement that these qualities were, there was some truth in them in a kind of universal way in our particular practice. So just also to give you the context, I'm a master of Usui Shiki Ryoho, and as expressed by Phyllis Furumoto and Paul Mitchell. And but not everybody who was in these discussions was from that particular system of Reiki, although most were. So that's just to give you a little context. So you may find things in that we describe, I'm describing, or that we, through them talking through me, describe that aren't exactly like your own practice of Reiki. And there may be other things that you kind of go, oh yeah, of course. So I'm hoping there'll be quite a lot that you resonate with, and that will also perhaps be aspects that pique your curiosity and inspire you in your Reiki practice. So before, without further ado, let's launch into the 3 phases of potential for Reiki treatment practice. So I'm going to screen share a PowerPoint for you. As I was saying, these characteristics of 3 phases of Reiki practice were developed at public practice conferences in the USA and the UK between 2001 and 2003. And Phyllis and I actually had a little chat and updated them a little bit in 2015 in the context of Reiki's further development. So the first phase is known as folk art or informal practice. Sometimes people refer to it as student practice, but I believe we're students of Reiki, whatever phase we're in. So for me, that doesn't work for me. Folk art was the original term we used. And it's folk art in the sense of something that's practiced at home that you might be very skilled at, but really you're only practicing it within the context of your own home, if you like, your immediate circle. So the circle of relationship in the context of treatments is yourself, the person being treated, your master, your peers, in other words, the other Reiki students you learn with and who you interact with, Reiki shares and so on. In other words, the practice is within the immediate circle of influence, people in your immediate circle of influence. Self-treatment is practiced. Treatments are received. There's no obligation. Treatments occur as they fit into life. So it's very, informal, as and when. Exchange is a process of discovery. Students may want to ask for money, but not know how. A process of discovery is entered into exploring this. So in Asushiki Ryoho, we do have a tradition, if you like, of exchange, of giving and receiving, giving a treatment, receiving something in exchange. I know that's not true of all Reiki styles and schools, but that's why there's this element about exchange. And as you'll see as we go on, actually this becomes even more important. There's a knowledge of ethics, simply understanding that there are ethical issues. Reiki practice is not easily articulated. The person giving the treatment doesn't necessarily need to express what the treatment is, what they're offering, or what will happen. I'm sure you've probably had the experience of, your sister's got a sore knee and you just go, oh, I'll give you some Reiki. And you just put your Reiki hands on. You don't need to explain to her what Reiki is. You don't need to say, I'm going to put my hands on you for 5 minutes, and you don't have to do any of that. You just do it. With the folk art, there's no advertising. You don't need to advertise to your family and friends that you're going to do things. The objectives are to gain experience, to learn how to read your hands, and gain confidence in Reiki itself. And of course, to share the wonder of Reiki. I'll just pause the share for now. So I'd like to invite, if any of you would like to just give a little bit of feedback about, how does that sound familiar to you? Yeah, I'm seeing some nodding heads. Would anyone like to share something? Would anyone like to unmute and say something? You can unmute yourself if you'd like to. Panayoti, please unmute yourself.
Panayota is the masculine version. I'm Panayota.
Oh, sorry. I beg your pardon. Panayota. Need my glasses on.
Let's see. What am I answering? I guess there's a lot to say, but I'll keep it very short. I would offer to family, if they're feeling something, let me give you some Reiki. Sometimes they accept, sometimes they don't. In the beginning, especially, they were like, whatever. And now they're on their own asking me like, hey, put your hand here. Hey, but before they were making fun of me or not believing, or what is my baba won't let me touch him. Not even like, I'm like, okay.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm trying, I don't know. I'm just trying to figure this out, like moving forward next,
Right. Yeah, super. Thank you.
I completely agreed with your list of everything for the folk Reiki. I started doing my Reiki last October, so it's been a year. And it was the same thing. It was just family, friends, not knowing if, just doing it for free, basically, until I had my level 2 training. And then I kind of struggled with setting, a fee, charging for it, because I just wanted to give it away.
Yes, of course. Yeah, very understandable. Great. Thank you. Okay, so let's go back to the screen share. And and move on to the next phase, which is public practice. So in public practice, the circle of relationship is the same as before. We still treat ourselves, we're still having a relationship with the person being treated, our master, our peers, going to Reiki shares and that kind of thing. But there's now an extra circle, which is the public. So self-treatment is still practiced, of course. And now the practitioner is even more sure to receive treatment, so that the practitioner's personal process doesn't become part of the client's process. You're regularly available, but treatments can occur anywhere. So you might still be offering treatments in your home, for example. There's a clear fee schedule with fees determined by the practitioner individually, and that could include experience exchange. In other words, you know, giving Reiki for Reiki, or giving a Reiki treatment for a massage, or maybe exchanging for acupuncture, or, you know, that kind of experience exchange with other practitioners. There's a commitment to ethics, becoming clear about ethical issues and consequences. Treatments need to have a more structured articulation. You need to be able to explain what will happen in the treatment and what is being offered. This is really important for the aspect of consent. Public practice is announced with intention, which might also be by printed media, such as having a card or a leaflet. But advertising is generally by word of mouth and personal contact, which reduces the risk of liability. Share the wonder. We still want to share the wonder, of course, but it's getting a bit more difficult at this level of practice, as it's less easy to talk to the public about the magic of Reiki. Where, as you were saying, within your family, you already have you know, ways that you talk and understanding, so you can be fairly flexible about what you're saying. You know, you kind of understand each other already to some extent. Whereas when you start to talk to someone you don't know what their worldview is necessarily. You don't know how they think, what their philosophy is. So sharing that wonder that we have of Reiki can be a little bit more difficult. So I'll stop the share again and see if anyone would like to respond to what I've just shared. I know you're
when trying to talk to public, or like if I'm on the airplane and somebody next to me is suffering and I'll offer it, I always get the Christian card, like Christian. I'm like, oh my God. So
yeah.
I'm trying hard. Like at first I was like, you got to do this, and then I'm just like, okay, can't push it on anybody. You know, I'm up to level 2. I've done several trainings because I wanted to understand it more and more. So,
Wonderful.
but I'm more chill now. I don't like force it on people.
Fantastic. That's a really good description of the kind of process we need to go through. Yeah, absolutely. Because yes, we're passionate. We know how much it'll help people, but how do we actually say that to them in a way that they will respond and not go, yeah. Very good. Thank you. Lovely.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. just making sure.
Good.
I found it very difficult I found it somewhat difficult in the beginning to share that I was with the public, like on social media, that I was doing Reiki, because I was a pastor in the Free Methodist Church, an ordained elder.
Wow.
And a lot in my circle, they don't understand Reiki. They've never heard of it.
Right.
And people have sent me messages on Facebook telling me that it's witchcraft.
Right.
The superintendent of the Free Methodist Church sent me an article when I posted I had my Reiki certificate. She sent me a message saying, it was an article about a woman who renounced Reiki to follow Jesus. And she said, I think you should read this, as implying that I'm doing something that was not Christ-like.
Right.
So I retired. I resigned my position from that church because God transcends religion and any little box that we can put God into. And so just posting, just being open about my spiritual beliefs. I would not say they're religious. I did this whole spiritual journey transformation thing in the past 2 years. I still struggle sometimes explain to people what it is that I'm doing because they assume that I'm doing something that's satanic.
Wow.
And
yeah. I mean, this is a perfect example of how difficult it can be to talk with people who we don't, who are, essentially strangers to us, or who have very different views. Yes, this is very much what the articulating Reiki to people we don't know. That's what this is about. Just what you've described beautifully. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Last section. Now, just as a kind of to preempt this one, we had long discussions, I remember, in the first conference about whether there was another phase or another level. I was of the camp that thought, well, either you're treating the public or you're not. So it's either folk art or public practice. Now, there were others in the group who were, professionals in other fields, such as nurses and so on. And they said, no, we think there's another phase, another level, another form of practice that comes with, doing Reiki at a professional level. So we had this back and forth. After a while, we just said, okay, if there is, let's think about the characteristics. And when we started writing them up on the flip chart, then we began to see, yes, this is different from being in public practice. And one of the things that I found, I mean, at the time that we wrote about this, in general, I would say it didn't exist for Reiki. Very few people were really offering Reiki in a professional way. And I've been involved with the Reiki Council, Reiki Regulatory Working Group in the UK. And over the years, we've actually found this description really useful as we've tried to set standards for Reiki practitioners. We were asked to create these national occupational standards. And we found this description ultimately really helpful, even though it didn't really exist, which was really fascinating. And my personal experience is that over the years, as I've continued as a folk art, then public, I mean, I started my public practice very early in my Reiki career, like within a year or more, just about a year actually, not long after I'd done my second degree. And I didn't really understand what it meant to treat the public. And so now that I've been a practitioner for longer and worked longer towards these other characteristics, now they're in my own experience and I really do resonate with them and do find them really helpful in recognizing where I am on the path. And also when I'm offering Reiki treatments, whether I'm offering a Reiki treatment in the kind of folk art, public practice, or professional practice, because there are different qualities. So, yes, Janet, hi, you're offering Reiki to animals. And I think a lot of this actually applies just the same, because it's about as much as anything, the role that we're taking as we interact with those that we're offering Reiki to. If you're working with animals, you're interacting with the animals, but you're also interacting with the people who are the carers of the animals. So a lot of this will apply. So I'll just get the screen share going again. So the third phase, professional practice. Now, one of the things we agreed in the group was that that people needed to have second degree as a minimum. Now, for the folk art and public practice, we agreed that you could actually be practicing that simply with first degree. We knew about some of Hawaii Takata's masters, for example, in Hawaii, that she taught when she was first teaching Reiki, who had only ever taken first degree, and they'd been practicing for 10, 15, 20 years with first degree Reiki, giving Reiki treatments to people, and they would say, well, I might be just about ready for second degree. And obviously the treatments they were giving were fantastic. They had years and years of practice, and they were clearly very competent. However, they didn't have second degree, so they didn't have all of the tools in the toolbox. And we did agree that you could be, as I say, a folk art or public practitioner without second degree, but if you're going to be a professional, you really need to have second degree, be a second degree student. So, circle of relationship is as before: yourself, the person being treated, your master, peers, and the public, plus other professionals. There will be interaction with other professionals, such as other complementary therapists, doctors, nurses, physiotherapists, and so on. Self-treatment is practiced, of course, and the practitioner is sure to receive treatment to ensure the practitioner's personal process doesn't interfere with the practitioner, with the person receiving Reiki. So this is, if any of you are familiar with the term transference, that's partly what this is about, making sure that we are able to hold that person without sort of leaking our own emotions or issues or anything like that into the session. It's about those professional boundaries. In professional practice, being available to provide a course of healing, following through treatments, and encouraging client to be committed to healing. People are coming for a series of treatment rather than just one, and we are, as practitioners, are available to provide this. So I think very often Reiki treatments are given as kind of one-off, and this is a shift in how we see the potential of Reiki, as in that we're providing a course of healing, that it's actually a series of Reiki treatments that will really make a difference for people. Treatments occur in an environment specific to the practice of Reiki, i.e. are given in a room specifically dedicated to giving treatments. So if it's in your home, it would be a room in your home that's specifically set up for giving a Reiki treatment. So no longer with the cat coming in, although, yeah, no, that would be a public practice treatment, possibly, with the cat coming in. I used to do that. The cats used to want to come in and join in the Reiki, but that was public practice. In professional practice, no cats allowed. And you turn off the phone and so on and so forth, you know. Now, it doesn't have to be only for Reiki, this room. It might be a complementary therapy office room, you know, a clinic room somewhere. It might be in a doctor's surgery. It might be in a hospital even. There are lots of different possibilities, but it's like a professional setting. Equitable exchange that covers overhead expenses and other expenses, charging what it really costs. So thinking about, you know, do you need insurance? Do you need to pay for the room? Do you need travel? All of the different costs that there are involved actually need to be covered, because Reiki is an integral part of one's livelihood, providing financial daily support. So it's not just something you do and it doesn't matter how much you receive and, you know, and actually take home. You're really taking it in a much bigger context of everything that it costs to actually provide that treatment. There's a higher commitment to ethics, both from a greater understanding of the issues and risks involved, and also it's more defined by society at this stage. In other words, if you're really out there as a professional in the public domain, society, around you, the people around you, the wider society, the wider circle will have expectations of you. In professional practice, we're able to clearly articulate what is being offered. You're able to really describe Reiki, what's going to happen in the treatment, what people can expect. There will be marketing of the service offered, including doing market research to identify potential clients. More general advertising, leading to more risk. In other words, you won't know who sees your advert and who might, take advantage of it, if you like. Some obviously will be positive, it's potentially there could be negative consequences of that. Share the wonder. We always want to share the wonder of Reiki. That's why we're doing it in the first place, after all. But as in the public practice, it's more difficult to talk about the magic of Reiki with people who have no connection with you. In professional practice, there'll be a referral base, a network, a knowledge of local practitioners doing similar complementary services, so that practitioners can make referral when something comes up that the practitioner is not equipped or chooses not to deal with. Really important that we actually have someone else we can refer on to. That's the responsible thing to be able to do. The practitioner has a responsibility to seek them out and also to make themselves known. It works both ways. When you are known to other practitioners, they may well refer to you when there's something that they can't handle. I remember when Alec and I were first working in a complementary health clinic in Birmingham, other practitioners would refer to us anyone that they couldn't help. Oh, well, let's try Reiki then. So we could never say specifically what Reiki was good for at that stage. So it would be, oh, well, if they've tried everything else, let them try Reiki. So it's more defined by society, with set standards among other professionals, expectations of you about privacy, time, cleanliness, confidentiality, therapist boundaries, and so on. In professional practice, you must be willing to risk liability. People not known to you may come for treatment and are statistically more likely to find fault with your treatment than a friend. You also have to be willing to risk liability in the way that teachers and doctors do. There's also more risk when the person's not known to you of violent or abusive behavior from the client. If somebody comes to you from referred by a friend, they're unlikely to send you someone who they know, they know might be abusive to you. I mean, it's possible, but even if that happens, you know who to contact to trace back. In professional practice, you have confidence through your own experience. You need to fulfill business practices such as taxation, licensing, insurance. Further training is necessary, which is likely to be standardized. And this is one of the characteristics in particular, which at that time was, there was no further training for Reiki practitioners to become professional, and it certainly wasn't standardized. However, in the UK, we are now very fortunate that we've worked really hard as a community to establish what qualities, what these standards, what standards of training are needed, and you can actually have you can actually take part in a course which is verified, and that means that practitioners are recognized as having met a particular standard, and it covers particular agreed modules. And so there's also recognition as a professional by yourself and peers. And continued education is also required after the initial training. So there you are. That's professional practice. Yes. And I think actually Panayoti Yotta, you're saying that you don't have the options for continuing education, and that that is something that, and certainly the standardized training, I think is I don't know if it's unique in the UK, but it's certainly, we tend to be a bit pioneering about this sort of thing. So I don't think there's a lot around the world that meets that criteria at the moment, but I'm sure it will continue to evolve as more people want to share Reiki in a more professional way.
That's why I had to put myself through more Reiki training, meaning I would have to do level, if I wanted to study with a specific teacher to learn more, I have to do again, 1 and 2, because I couldn't really find things that were speaking to me. And then everything that's offered, you have to get more initiations, and I don't want any more stuff sent to me. Just, give me information, like education without, because because I don't relate to all of the initiations, attunements, whatever that are out there. So I was happy to see this, that you were offering this.
Yes, great. Well, hopefully I may be able to support you further with more. More. And Karen is saying you do your own personal continuing education in the US. And yes, there's no standardized training or licensure needed for Reiki. That's right. Well, it's not needed in the UK either. It's not required. It's very much an option. But it's you remember this quality of recognition. So essentially, if you do the verified course in the UK, you can gain a recognition, and that's a recognition that's not from your own school, but actually from outside. We're very fortunate in the UK that we do have this possibility. We actually have a register that's held by a body called the Complementary and Natural Healthcare Council, which is a register for many different complementary therapies. And they did include Reiki after, with some reluctance. But there is now this register. So the public can go to this register and find a practitioner who has met the standards and is recognized by their peers. So, great. Hello, Sammy. Thanks for your comment. Lovely. Okay, so I would like to offer you now a little bit of an opportunity to go into breakout rooms and just have a little chat with a couple of other people about where you feel you are on this particular continuum, if you like. Are you a folk art person? Are you in public practice? Are you already a professional practitioner? And one of the things I would also like to emphasize is there's no cut and dried. You are a folk artist and a public practitioner. You can be a public practitioner and a professional. You can have qualities of the professional practice as a public practitioner. It's quite fluid. It's not rigid. Okay, welcome back, everybody. I realize that wasn't a very long time for you to all have a chat, but I hope you found it enjoyable, engaging. Good, that's great. So we're just about coming to the end of our time together for today. I hope you found it valuable. I would like to offer you some options going forwards. If you feel that this has just tickled your interest and you would like to explore a little bit more, I would be happy to offer you a follow-on session where we can actually have a bit more of a discussion about what I presented today, perhaps sometime in January. And I am offering, for those in the UK, I do a verified Reiki practitioner course, which will help you to become a professional verified Reiki practitioner. And I realize that there are people in other parts of the world who can't actually become verified practitioners, but who might be interested in developing their Reiki practice towards, greater professionalism. So if people are interested, I would be happy to do some online workshops for you. And Benita, you have your hand up. Did you want to say something?
Just very quickly, I mentioned to both Cheryl and Mila that I'm currently studying with yourself, and how what a wonderful place to kind of really experience all three different aspects and sort of ground through the understanding. So they were both intrigued, and I said, oh, speak to Kate, I'm sure something will be possible. It's really, really brilliant training. So yeah, just wanted to share that.
Thank you very much, Benita. That's lovely. And I know Fiona is here. I wonder if, Fiona, you would like to say a word or two about why being a professional is quite important in some contexts.
I'd like to say something else first, actually, because I was just cut off from saying something in our little group, and maybe other people might be interested in this, because You may have amongst your audience today people who are going through either something like Reiki 2 or some Reiki 3 or some sort of level of Reiki class, and I just wanted to share that I think that what you're offering here, or this issue of public practice, can come in at any time on stage of your Reiki journey. I don't think it's you have to be at a certain stage, or you only just, I think, need the intention to want to go in that direction with your Reiki practice, and the sooner you have the additional information about professional Reiki, in my opinion, the better, because it will then help you to make choices along the lines of what courses you might want to do, whether they're CPD or simply what I would call just ongoing professional development wherever you live. I don't know that CPD is something that people outside of the UK know about. So I would just simply call it professional development wherever you are. So yeah, that would be my the something that I wanted to share, actually.
Thank you. That's lovely. Thank you. Yeah, great. So if you're interested in staying in touch with me, I do have a regular newsletter where I'll be making announcements of things that are on offer. If you'd like to join, Alec, I think you have some links there to put in the chat. You're very welcome to join my newsletter email list, and also have a look at my website if you're interested in some further development. As Fiona said, it doesn't have to be because you want to become a registered professional practitioner. It could simply be that you want to develop and deepen your Reiki practice. If any of you would like to work with me one-to-one, there's also the option of one-to-one tutorials or a mentoring session. If there's a particular area of Reiki you'd like to explore, I'm available for you. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining me today. And I hope to connect with you again in the future. I might send out a little questionnaire for you to find out what you thought about today, and any thoughts that you might have about what you'd like to do next. And if anyone wants to unmute now and say, gosh, that sounds like a great idea, or bye-bye, I'm not going to see you again, I don't mind. Hopefully you've enjoyed it today, and I've certainly enjoyed being with you this afternoon, this evening, this morning, wherever you are in the world.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Vanda.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was really interesting. I enjoyed speaking to other practitioners. That was really full of golden nuggets. Really
Great. Thank you, Sammy. Great. Yes, Fiona.
I'd like to embarrass you now.
Uh-oh.
I've known Kate for a very, very long time. I think I first met her when I first got Reiki over 20 years ago. I won't go into all sorts of details, but what I do know is that she is an incredible teacher. And if you're thinking of moving your journey on in the direction of a professional development, I actually cannot think of anyone I know who can guide you better. And I'm not on a commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona.
That's it. Sorry.
So touched.
That's it.
Thank you. I'm very touched. Thank you. Karen, did you want to say something? I saw you unmute.
Yeah, I was just wanting to say I really enjoyed this session because I'll be teaching level 2, which is practitioner level Reiki soon. And it was nice to see how you know, the points that you highlighted, the difference between doing it informal and then public. So it'll help me as I help somebody else.
Great.
So I appreciate it.
That's wonderful. I'm really pleased. I think it really helps to have these concepts more conscious, because we kind of know them, don't we, in a sense, instinctively, but actually to be conscious of them and be aware of them as we're teaching, I think makes a lot of difference. So I'm pleased. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Karen Morrill, did you want to say something? I saw you unmute and then you went.
Oh, no, I just sharing that it was really a great experience.
Good.
It was really fun to be in the breakout with Karen. So we had a Karen and Karen going. And so it was really great to talk about our experiences and just and the way, as Karen Jenkins said, how you structured the presentation, that it really gave like more concrete terms to informal, and even for me, looking at being more intentional in adding the formal piece, because I'm a licensed clinical social worker, so I'm a therapist.
Right.
And so just even sharing with Karen that I'm like, you know, I offered it because I've been a master's level for about 2 years now. I went all the way through. And
Right.
so so even just looking at that, I was like going, yeah, you know, I want to definitely make it more formal part, and how to cover it, you know, with insurance, and how to publicly be clear in adding that as an additional component. So it was really great just being able to share with everyone and learn everyone's presentation with it. And I'm loving the animal Reiki piece as well. I think that's a beautiful, beautiful piece to add, because our animals are truly our spirit guides sometimes.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. It's great.
Oh,
I will be
thank
back.
you.
So thank you.
Thank you, Karen. That's lovely. Thank you so much. Yes, I think I was very grateful that there were people like you who understood what it meant to be a professional in that group, because I think that made a difference to how we identified those qualities. And it's certainly something in the UK we've been able to understand more and more, you know, what it means to be a professional as a Reiki practitioner. And one of my little bugbears, passions, if you like, is that I saw many people having to train as something else, as some other kind of professional, like a massage therapist or whatever, in order to be a professional Reiki practitioner. And it's always been my passion that it should be possible to train simply as a Reiki professional. So that's what I'm doing. I'm here to support that process for those who are interested in taking that path or find themselves on it, because it's not always that we choose with Reiki, is it? Reiki kind of moves us in certain directions.
I think the other thing, Kate, is that if one's going to go on and work in hospitals and in, you know, medical or true clinical settings, that it's really, really important to get that professionalism behind us, because you know, Reiki classes generally are teaching us Reiki. They are not teaching us how to be professionals or to work in settings, you know, to work in different settings. And as far as clinical Reiki, no, I'm not going to call it clinical Reiki because there's no such thing. Reiki in clinical settings and Reiki in medical settings is a whole different ballgame. And you do need to go through the various steps, I feel, to get there. Otherwise, the doors are simply not going to open, because you won't have necessarily the tools that you need and the training you need and the presence that you need to even get the door open or to get anybody to hear you well.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite so I think there are these steps that are so important now, and gathering more important if we want Reiki to stand on its own, as you say,
Yes.
not as a an add-on to reflexology or massage therapy or ministering, but actually to be its own modality.
Exactly. Yeah,
I think it deserves its own place.
definitely. Yeah, I think that relates to what you're asking, Karen, doesn't it, about how to offer Reiki as an integrated healing modality within complementary practices. And I would love to see it integrated in alongside conventional medicine, so that it is a real option. There's an organization in the UK called the College of Medicine, which is all about integrating conventional medicine with complementary therapies, so that it takes the strain off doctors. They don't have to prescribe as much pills. There's a recognition that lifestyle is as important, and mental health and all of those things are as important as what the doctors can do in terms of their interventions. So there's a real, in the UK, real belief in bringing these things together in some quarters. In other quarters, of course, Reiki is snake oil. It's, and we're not professional and so on. So it's dismissed. So I do believe Reiki really does have a place in these conventional settings, alongside and to support medical profession. The medical professionals in the UK are struggling so much at the moment with their workload, and how things are organized isn't helping. But we could be there supporting them, supporting their patients. But they won't accept, as Fiona says, they won't let us through the door unless they believe we are solid, trustworthy practitioners. And that's what the Reiki Register with the CNHC, Complementary and Natural Healthcare Council, offers in the UK. So yes, that's my little soapbox. But yeah, I think there's great hope for Reiki in the future if we get our act together and understand the role as Reiki practitioners. Then we'll find a way to share the wonder.
And there's never going to be a time when we don't need to step up to the plate and produce the research, because medicine is evidence-based, and that's one of the biggest struggles that they have with us, is that we are not evidence-based. And we can't, I remember one doctor I was talking to at St. George's Hospital, who asked me what Reiki was. And I knew it was a catch question. I knew I was walking into a trap if I answered. And I said, well, I think it would depend on who you might ask. And he said, well, that was interesting. He said, because I've asked quite a few people and everyone's given me a different answer. And if you guys can't give me the same answer, all of you, then what on earth are we doing here? Or the words to that effect. And talking of which, obviously that program at St. George's, which is Connecting Reiki with Medicine program, is absolutely amazing. The integration between the Reiki practitioners and the medical staff is phenomenal. They are treated as one, and that is so beautiful to see. I mean, I know you came once, didn't you, Kate?
Yes.
So I don't have to speak on that, but it's really, really special. It kind of almost brings tears to your eyes, actually. It's very, very powerful to watch what's going on there.
And it's a great model for the potential of I mean, yes, what is so impressive about that is that the Reiki practitioners are completely seen as part of the healthcare team, in the same way as the nurses, and the doctors. I mean, as you say, I went for a visit, and it was clear that if Reiki was going on around a patient's bed and the curtains were drawn, the nurses would wait until it was done and then come and do whatever intervention they needed.
I think you've witnessed actually doctor coming in and so, oh, Reiki, oh, no, I'll wait. And then literally left the room.
Yeah. And Karen, yes, I think it is difficult in the USA because, you know, the situation there is difficult. And I wonder whether, you know, there's something that can be learned from how we've organized things in the UK. It's not necessarily going to be the same because you've got all the different laws in different states and so on and so forth. But there may be something, you know, that can be learned and brought across. Nikki, I saw that you wanted to say something a moment ago.
Yeah, and I just want to ask, is it also organized in other countries, like in Belgium? Do you know of an organized way of? Because I just.
I know that there are Reiki organizations in lots of different countries, but I don't know of any other country that has things organized like we do in the UK, that has a national government recognized register. I think it's quite unique, and we actually have our former prince, now King Charles, partly to thank for that, because he was very much a supporter of complementary therapies, and he actually invested, you know, he created this Prince's Trust for integrated medicine to bring practitioners together to talk about their standards. So yeah, it'd be great to see that in other countries, wouldn't it?
Okay, should ask my king then.
Ah,
Nikki,
Panayota.
Hi. I wanted to speak about the States a little. I'm Greek American, so I'm born in Boston, and I live between both countries. And from my research and talking with other colleagues, I mean, we've had Reiki practitioners in hospitals since like at least the late 90s, right? And there's even more and more, at least for Boston, I can say in New York, there's a lot of, they have like a Reiki, you know, people in the hospitals. What bothers me a lot is that the ones that I know, especially in Massachusetts, they're like volunteer based, which is really frustrating. Like, how are we going to be getting paid if like hospitals make so much money, right? But then you see maybe even acupuncture, now it's like legalized, you have licensing, maybe they weren't getting paid before. But with the Reiki also, they are trying to legalize it. There's a big like war, and there's like some practitioners that are trying to start their own thing, trying to legalize it or put us under massage therapy. I'm licensed in massage as well, but there's so many other practitioners who don't have massage license, you know, and how they're going to be put out of business, and they want to put all these high fees, and every state wants to have this licensing. So it's really crazy. And this organization, I found out that they tried to do this, legalizing it. They were getting death threats because they're trying to do this. And I'm like, Reiki people are sending death threats to this organization. You know, they were listing people. They wanted to get them, you know, before like they have like legislation and meetings like to go against it, you know, stuff like this. So it's just crazy. But and the medical Reiki is really fascinating. There's like some great pioneers in New England. I don't know if you guys are aware of some of them. But in Greece, we don't have medical Reiki. Greeks, they are very, I mean, we're ahead. We have the Western medicine, like helped with Western medicine, right? But they're so backwards in some ways, and you can't talk to them. So I hope to somehow like get in somehow with that.
It's really interesting, isn't it? How do we bring the wonder of Reiki wherever we are? Yes, I'm aware of the licensing issues.
What do you think? What does everybody here think about this volunteering? They're in the hospitals, like they don't get paid.
Yeah, that's an issue here as well. You know,
I think we can't in this country can't be paid because we have a national health system, which is a public system. It's paid for by the public purse, and they don't pay for any therapy. It's not just Reiki. They do not pay for any complementary therapy in hospitals generally, because there is no budget for it. In America, you have a very, very different system, and there's perhaps, you know, a lot of more private care and insurance and all those sort of things. So it's a very, very different scenario. So we can't make a comparison there, I don't think. But I do think this there's a lot that we can learn from what's going on in America. I mean, And one thing, for instance, that happens in America, which is wonderful, which we can't do here, another thing, and that is that most of the people I know that are giving Reiki in hospitals on a permanent basis are actually the nurses. They are trained Reiki practitioners as well as being nurses. Well, you would not get that happening in England. That would never happen, because nursing is for nurses and that's what they're paid for, and the government would have a fit if they started giving Reiki. However, if the nurses have Reiki, it's certainly changed the energy. So,
Yeah.
you know, there are lots of ways to
That's
get
right.
Reiki into
Yeah.
hospitals, and it,
Yeah.
you know, it makes a difference. That
It
I
certainly
mean,
does.
one of the senior sisters, she's a matron at St. George's, says that she and her team notice the difference when a Reiki practitioner walks onto the ward, and they look forward to it. And she says, as busy as they are, and they literally don't have time for a break or to go to the loo or go to have a cup of coffee virtually, you know, they would, she said, I will try, and even if I can get 1 minute on a one-to-one basis, it just sets me up for the afternoon. And she said, you know, when Reiki is being practiced on a ward, because in this country we have wards, and most people are in rooms of at least 4 people, if not quite a lot more. And all you've got is a curtain between you and somebody else for your privacy. And they apparently, the ward falls silent. Even at visiting hours, the visitors start whispering. Nobody's told them to do this, and they just notice a real shift in energy. Imagine that, and what that would do to one's experience of being in hospital. Just that.
Mm.
So I'm great. I think it's lovely if we can get loads of nurses doing Reiki for themselves in this country. That would be good. We know that they'll never be able to actually treat people.
No, never say never, Fiona. And of course they will be, because they do touch people. They do hold people's hands.
Well,
you know,
this is true. This is right. This is the energy, isn't it?
They have to do cannulas and things like that. And if they have Reiki, then you know.
It can all be very subtle, but
yeah.
Anyhow, I just wanted to share that I think there's a great deal going on in the States, which is really interesting, which we could perhaps make something of as well. There's two-way traffic there.
Yeah, great, lovely, thank you. Well, I think we should close there. Thank you so much for those of you who stayed on and for a little bit extra chat. I really look forward to connecting with you again. Thank you, and let's share the wonder.